Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah, and I just wanted to welcome everyone to our Keeping Girls Confident and in the Game webinar today. As I mentioned, my name is Hannah Rosen, and I am a very proud member of the Women's Sports Foundation team, and I'm just really excited to be here with you all today. Did you know that nearly half of teenage girls drop out of sports, and the number one reason is body confidence? That's why the Women's Sports Foundation and Dove are teaming up to help girls feel strong, capable, and proud of what their bodies can do. We're really thrilled to feature three incredible athletes and leaders today, including four-time Olympic medalist and WSF trustee Brenda Villa, the first Black rhythmic gymnast to represent the US globally, and WSF past president Wendy Hilliard, and Olympic softball medalist and WSF trustee Rachel Garcia. You'll hear from them in a little bit, but first you're going to hear some key research, inspirational stories, and tools from Dove's Body Confident Sport program to help empower coaches and to keep girls in the game. So I'm super excited to get started and to hand it over to my colleague, Karen Isaacson Silver, the Vice President of Research and Education at the Women's Sports Foundation, who's going to share some big picture research on why building body confidence is so critical for young athletes. Thanks everyone for joining, and Karen, please take it away.
Great. Thanks, Hannah. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today to talk about the critical role that body confidence plays in keeping girls in the game. We all know from research and work on the ground that girls love sports, right? They have passion, they have grit and determination. They love that sense of belonging they get from sport. They love having fun with their peers. They love teamwork, learning new skills, pushing boundaries, the thrill of competition, and so much more. We also know that how girls feel about themselves, and in particular, how they feel about their bodies, has a tremendous impact on their desire to keep playing. When girls feel confident in their bodies, they're better able to focus on skill development, teamwork, and enjoying the experience. Positive body confidence is also linked to higher self-esteem, resilience, and healthier coping strategies, all of which sport participation can reinforce. By contrast, low body confidence can deter girls from joining teams, going to practice, or even wearing athletic uniforms in public. They may worry about how they look rather than focusing on the fun or the skill of sport. And when girls lose confidence, they're more likely to drop out. But there's a lot that Dove is doing and that we can all do to change that. So I'll kick things off with just a few research findings that provide a window into what's happening and why keeping girls in sport is paramount. First, girls aren't dropping out of sport because they lack ability. They're dropping out because they're made to feel their bodies don't belong on the field. Dove and Nike's incredible research highlights how body image is central to girls' participation in sport. 45% of teenage girls globally drop out of sports. Low body confidence is the number one reason. The research also shows that 48% of those girls report being told they don't have the right body to play sports. And in the US, nearly half of girls quitting sport said that they were told they didn't fit the athletic body ideal. So we know how critical it is to keep girls in sport for a variety of reasons. And among them, sport protects girls' mental health by building connection, purpose, and resilience. The Women's Sports Foundation's latest research shows that mental health disorders are 1.5 to 2.5 times lower among girls who play sports. Depression and anxiety more than 10 percentage points lower for girls who play sport compared to those who don't play. And sports also provides stronger peer relationships, meaning and purpose. It's about 1.5 times higher among girls who play. And of course, we know that the sports setting matters, quality matters. Environments that emphasize skill development, voice, and goal setting lead to stronger mental health. And positive coaching matters. It acts as a protective factor. So we know that sports is important for physical and mental health, but it's also a launch pad for leadership. It trains the leaders of tomorrow, confidence, resilience, and teamwork. I know all of you on this call are very familiar with all of the benefits of sport, and the Women's Sports Foundation's research just underscores that point. We know that 60%, for example, of women believe the skills and lessons they learned from playing sport carry into adulthood. Nearly half of them credit sports for shaping their leadership. Top leadership skills They credit to sport include teamwork, learning from mistakes, handling pressure, and more. And we know that 69% of women who played sport held at least one formal leadership role among those manager, director, president, C-suite. We know the longer girls play, the more likely they are to step into leadership. And of course, we know the benefits of sport are not distributed equally. Girls of color and low income girls face the steepest hurdles. And the data just underscores that point. African American and low income girls are the least likely to play, most likely to have never played. I mentioned, of course, you all on the call know this, you're doing the work. Quality coaching makes a huge difference. Positive, supportive coaching keeps girls feeling confident and in the game so that they can realize the lifelong benefits. At WSF, we're working to normalize body confidence and inclusion in every sport setting, expanding access to sport, especially for girls of color and those from low-income families, to train and support coaches as body positive, equity-minded role models, and to elevate visibility in media coverage to inspire the next generation. I know our amazing panel has a lot to share. Now you'll hear more about the Dove Body Confident Athlete Tool from Marty Love at Positive Coaching Alliance.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Marty Love, the Director of National Partnerships for Positive Coaching Alliance, or PCA, and we're a national nonprofit on a mission to create a more positive, equitable, and accessible youth sports experience for every child. And body confidence is a critical part of that. PCA loves working with the Women's Sports Foundation, and we're also proud partners of Dove. And today we bring you the Body Confident Sport Tool. So let's cue the video to share, what this important resource is all about.
Welcome to our global community committed to creating body-confident athletes, coaches, and sport environments. I'm Dr. Emily Matheson from the Centre for Appearance Research, and I specialise in body image and sport, as well as creating global youth development programs. But more importantly, I'm an athlete who has experienced the countless benefits of playing a sport that I love, as well as feeling part of something greater than myself. 20 years of research consistently shows that young people who identify as girls drop out of sport because they're worried about how they look when taking part. These worries stem from societal pressures that suggest girls should look and act a certain way when they're playing sport. That is, they should be tall, thin, have just the right amount of muscle, as well as play sports that are viewed as traditionally feminine, such as dance, gymnastics, or volleyball. But the reality is, every body and every type of body can be an athlete. Body Confident Sport is a global initiative that aims to stop girls dropping out of sport because of body image concerns. It includes two programs, Body Confident Coaching and Body Confident Athletes. These two programs were designed collaboratively between girls and coaches with leading experts and brands in body image and sport. They're also informed by the latest scientific research, as well as tested and proven to work. Body Confident Coaching is a web-based, self-guided program that provides coaches with the knowledge and skills to create positive body environments for their athletes. Meanwhile, Body Confident Athletes is an in-person, coach-led program that provides girls with the knowledge and skills to feel body confident when playing the sport that they love. And now you're part of this global community, and together we are going to help girls thrive in sport and beyond.
Thank you so much. We encourage everyone to download the tool, and I want to give you three main tips or takeaways, that you'll learn in depth from the resource. So number one is, do not underestimate the impact that you have on a young person's body image. How she thinks, how she feels, how she speaks about her body can be largely influenced about how you think, how you feel, and how you speak about your body. And at PCA, we always say, model the type of behavior that you want to see more of. So when you speak about your body, model the same compassion, respect, and acceptance that you want her to have as well. And number two, do not make assumptions about someone's athletic abilities based on how they look. Athletes' bodies come in all shapes and sizes and abilities, and every girl deserves the opportunity and the chance to enjoy and excel in any sport that she loves. So that is regardless of her body type. And last but not least, speak about the body in terms of what it can do and what it experiences rather than, what it looks like. So we always talk about how important language is. It's so powerful. It's better to say things like, your strong legs help you run faster, or your arms make powerful shots. So, really focus on those three things, major keys you'll learn more about in the tool, and we encourage you to download it today. We're dropping it in the chat box as well, and then we have the QR code on the screen throughout today's webinar. It's a tangible conversational guide and a checklist designed to help you have these important conversations about body image with your athletes and ultimately foster a positive body image culture within your teams. So, as we mentioned earlier, we're thrilled to be joined today by three extraordinary athletes and leaders for a powerful Q&A. And I'm excited to formally introduce our panelists. So let's start with Brenda Villa, a four-time Olympic medalist in water polo and a current Women's Sports Foundation trustee. Brenda has had an incredible career representing the United States in 4 Olympic Games and continues to inspire young athletes through her advocacy and coaching. And she's also a member of PCA's National Advisory Board as well. So welcome, Brenda. Thanks for being here. We also have Wendy Hilliard, the first Black rhythmic gymnast to represent the U.S. globally and a past president of the Women's Sports Foundation. Wendy has broken barriers in her sport and founded the Wendy Hilliard Gymnastics Foundation, providing free gymnastics programs to youth in underserved communities in New York City and Detroit. It's a pleasure to have you, Wendy, as you're a trailblazer in sports and beyond. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here.
And last but certainly not least, we have Rachel Garcia, an Olympic softball medalist and current Women's Sports Foundation trustee. Rachel competes at the highest national and international levels in softball and has also served as a coach at San Diego State and UC San Diego, inspiring the next generation of athletes. And I have to say, go Bruins. Rachel and I both competed at UCLA and won championships in softball there. Mine in 2010, but hers in 2019. Rachel, I'm so proud of you and everything that you represent. Thank you so much for being here. All right. So this is such an important conversation. Each and every one of you are just incredible superstars in your own ways, and we're grateful to just be able to pick your brains today. So let's start with Wendy. You've had an iconic career. What first drew you into rhythmic gymnastics, and when did you realize that it can really take you far?
Well, it's really interesting because when I started, rhythmic was new. It just become an Olympic sport. So what happened, I was taking traditional gymnastics or artistic gymnastics, and my coach was a specialist. She was from Zina. She was from Kyiv, Ukraine, in rhythmic gymnastics. And so we kind of argued who introduced it to who or whatever. But at any point, I started training with Zina, who was a master sport in rhythmic gymnastics. And at the time, the US was recruiting a lot of athletes from artistic gymnastics to rhythmic gymnastics. And I just fell in love with it. Zina was an excellent coach. I mean, she was one of the top. And we had a really tough training, but I responded to that well, and I really loved being in this new sport, and eventually it took me around the world. So it was just first my passion for gymnastics overall, and then I had my passion for becoming the best athlete I could be.
Yes, we love to see when passion drives us, right? And continues uh, to help us show up every day and try to be the best that we can be. Thank you for sharing that, Wendy. Now, Brenda, you've competed across 4 Olympic Games. And, that longevity of an Olympic journey, what's one defining moment that you can recall that has shaped who you are today?
I don't know if there was a moment, but there was definitely a theme. And I think in the day and age that we're in, right, it's like not the instant gratification, right? I competed in 4 Olympic Games, and it wasn't until London where we won gold. So for me, I guess the common theme was failure, right? Like we were aiming to be at the top of the podium, but it didn't happen the first time. We walked away with the silver medal, and that inspired me to want to be on top of the medal. And then 4 years later, four more years, different journey, we got a bronze. So for me, it was just how do you continue to believe in yourself, believe in this dream that you have, and enjoy the process along the way. So all these different failures, if you want to call them, right, just inspired me to continue to go for something that I ultimately was inspired to do. The Olympic movement is amazing. Teammates are amazing. So I was in a world for so long because it was easy to work hard with all of the love of the teammates to keep striving for that gold medal.
Wow. That's so powerful, and I couldn't agree more. We always say, sports is one of the safest places for kids to learn about failure. They can fail, get back up, and try again. So that's such a powerful reminder to the coaches and parents out there, just the long-term value of participating in sports and the lessons and everything that you learn over time and how it can translate and impact young girls' lives, especially. Now, Rachel, you're still out here in these softball trenches competing at the highest level, both nationally, internationally, and on top of that, you coach as well. You add coach to that resume. So, what motivated you to start coaching, and how has coaching shifted your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it was mostly just being able to share the experiences. I mean, I've been coached by so many coaches in my 20 plus years of playing, and I think, every coach has something to say, and I feel like it's all similar, but it's said in different ways. So it's always like listening to the message and not necessarily the tone. And I think, just being able to share the experiences that I've had from a very young age up until college and even pro now. So I think just, just being able to give back to that to the youth and just being able to share my experience of what it took and how I got there and what it takes to keep playing past college, and also um, being that inspiration and kind of being someone that, like, a younger generation can lean on, especially when I'm coaching now. So it's been fun just to just share my experience and, the hardship that it is, being a softball player, and honestly, like what it takes, and, what we can do to help grow our sport.
Yes, and it's really, really cool to see how the sport is growing. It is a game of failure. We not get knocked down more often than we succeed. And for girls to learn that at an early age is so powerful. And you just shared how important that support system is for coaches and their influential platform to really impact the lives of the athletes that they're coaching. So thank you so much for that. Now, I want to talk about representation and how powerful that is, right? It's very hard, especially for young girls, to see themselves in a certain sport when they lack role models that look like them growing up. And I know quite a few of you can relate to this. Wendy, as the first Black rhythmic, gymnast on the U.S. national team, who did you lean on for support and encouragement when challenges arose?
Wow, that's a great question. Mainly, I relied on my coaches and my family when I came back home. And it was very interesting because I didn't have role models per se, and there was always issues. I mean, my body was different than everybody else's on the team. I had these healthy chest muscles and things like that. I didn't look like a traditional rhythmic gymnast, but my coach was pretty adamant about making sure that I did my routines that suited my style, right? And so that made me stand out. Not having a role model can be very tough, but on the other hand of that, it gave me more confidence to go out there. I really had to just, a lot of eyes were on me all the time, but I was committed to what I had to do, and I had something to say in my sport. And so I said, okay, let's go. Let's just do what we got to do. Yeah, have our music, and rhythmic gymnastics is one of those sports where how you look is critical, right? And there's a lot of pressures from a lot of different areas. But I will tell most people the most important thing that kept me going is that I was well trained. Let's be clear. If you just listen to those coaches out there, and I've been a coach too, and you feel confident in your training, you really can't control all of the other things that are going around you. You can't control what people are saying, what they're thinking, none of that. What you can control is how hard you work, how much you have confidence in those people around you to keep you supported, and just have belief. It will come through if you stay on track.
Beautifully shared, Wendy. Focus on those things that you can control and really believe in yourself, even if you don't see, someone that looks like you in your sport. Brenda, I know you can probably relate to this as well as a water polo player. How was it for you when you didn't have much representation before you?
Yeah, great question. I'm glad you asked that. For me, I was in a unique situation where the club team that I grew up in was primarily Latina, Hispanic. So I was able to build that confidence in myself, in my community, at home locally, and we were good, right? So then when we were out there representing our community, in these different spaces where you didn't see people like us, it was easier to maintain that confidence. And I think that is just something that has stuck with me my whole life is that reassurance, the way I was able to represent my local community my whole life because they sponsored the sport. There was a lot of groundbreaking work that happened in the city of Commerce for water polo. So all of those layers just helped me stay confident in the different spaces where I was the first. Um, and now it's a joy for me to give back and to maintain in the, I would say not the spotlight, but to maintain myself in the sport so that other girls like me get reassured that they do belong in the sport and that water polo is for everyone. And like Wendy mentioned earlier, right? Like I'm 5'4". If you see most water polo players, they're long arms, 6 foot. And I had no business in the sport, but because I grew up in such a tight-knit community, I had that confidence and that belief from age 8 to now. So it's important.
Yes, powerful. Taking space, going in there with that confidence is so powerful. And I know you both mentioned, growing your skill sets is not necessarily about the accolades and the awards and becoming an Olympian, but it is a lot of fun when your skills speak for themselves, right? Where people just can ignore the noise or just not even paying attention to what you look like because your skill set is so good that it takes over. So thank you for sharing that. And we know that mentorship and allies and community support are vital when representation is lacking. So it's a call for the coaches and leaders that are on here now to intentionally create inclusive spaces where every athlete feels they belong. I think it's our job as coaches and leaders to do that. Now, as we've learned, the way that girls and young people feel about their bodies is one of the most important factors in keeping them playing and participating in sports. Rachel, how did playing sports shape your own body confidence as you grew up and your body started to change?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at softball players and specifically pitchers, like they're tall, lengthy, and you know, they're skinny. And so like when I look at myself, I'm not 6 foot and I don't weigh 120. Like I'm short and I'm kind of stocky. And I think I utilize that to, use my strength to throw the ball. And I think that helped me kind of, build that confidence in my sport to be able to, say I'm 5'6" and can throw the ball at 70 miles an hour. And it just, it shows the strength that you have if you just have that confidence. And so just being able to play the sport and, prove that you can not be the tallest person on the field and still throw that hard.
Wow. Yes. And I do believe that, sports can either protect or harm body confidence, right? So coaches and parents can influence this by focusing on what athletes' bodies can do. Like Rachel mentioned, the strength, the power, the endurance, instead of how they look. I think that really can help young women feel confident in their own bodies. Now, I do want to mention parents and caregivers who are also tuning in today and the importance that they have, the role that they have on their children's body confidence is vital. Brenda, you're also a mother. How do you work with parents and how have you worked as a parent to ensure you're reinforcing positive body images at home?
I have a core memory of like being this 10 and under water polo player, and we're in swimsuits, right? So from a young age, you just kind of learn to be confident in your body because you know what it can do regardless of what you're wearing. And I remember my 10U coach Bobby just would almost get upset at us when we would try and cover ourselves with our towels, and he would remind us like, you all are strong, like it's okay, just go take your picture, like you don't need to cover up. So that is something that is stuck with me. So now as I coach girls, any age group, it's just a reminder of the language you use, right? Or even reminding parents, like, no, it's okay. Like, that they're fine. They look strong. They don't have to look a certain way. Like, I didn't look like all my teammates. So just, having those positive reinforcements, or even whenever you're bringing up other role models, can you diversify the images that you show your athletes so that you could show them different sports, different body types, so that it's not just one that they're like all trying to be. So, I mean, it's great when you look at the women's water polo team, you do see different body types. So it's easy, at least in my sport, to kind of gear them or guide them that way. And just a reminder, like they're all strong. So just I try to be mindful of the language I use around my own daughter, the athletes I coach, and even the parents, like reminders to them that they play the hardest, we say one of the hardest sports out there. And if their bodies can be in the water with someone climbing over them and them still making a pass, like let's respect that body.
Yeah, you hit it right on the nail there, Brenda. Parents and caregivers are I say the first coaches, right? And teachers at home, and the words that parents and caregivers use, and the way they model confidence within themselves, and their focus on effort over appearance directly shapes their own daughter's mindset. So I think that's really important. And thanks for sharing that story as well. If anyone has anything else to share, for parents specifically or caregivers that are tuning in on how to build body confidence in their young girls, please chime in.
Yeah, I want to mention something that's really important besides the body confidence. It's the hair confidence. Let's be clear. Us folks in the community, I have a big thing about the hair, and there are a few things about this, and I have a couple of coaches that are here, they're on it. What's really important is what you do that you can perform your sport, and you have to focus on that, and you have to raise your children, especially girls, because you know you're going to sweat, you're going to run, you're going to make a thing. And so besides your body, it's also your hair. And I do a lot of this with my parents. I'm like, just put it up there, wrap it up, and let's keep going. It's from head to toe. The thing is when you want to be an athlete, you have to have your whole self into it, right? And from parents, the thing is that your role is really to have an environment that makes sure that your child eats properly, right? And guiding that part. It's really important to learn that you have to fuel your body, right? So that you respond because of the sport that you want to do. So for parents, your children are beautiful. They are doing what they do. And what you want to see is you want them to be an environment that when they go out to competition or even when they go to practice on a regular basis, and this is really critical. It's like every time you go to practice, you got to be ready to practice. You have to have your uniform up. You have to feel confident. You have to be fueled the right way. When you do that all the time, it turns over to when you get to competition. So, and the one thing about parents I will have to say, because I've got an athlete, my son's on a national team, they're sitting there listening to everybody else in the stands, talking, hours and hours and hours, and you're watching. So for coaches and athletes, it's a little bit easier because we're a tad busy. But I would tell other parents, just stay positive. Know that it's a journey, that it is a journey, and that your child is going to be fine. And the body changes that women go through, it's a thing. Let's be clear. It's already hard enough. So just let us keep on working hard and getting through each session. That's what we need on that end.
Thank you for sharing that, Wendy, especially the comments about hair, knowing that all hair textures are different, the way that we manage our hair, all those things. I've been through it, sitting for hours getting my hair done, getting my braids done, things like that. And then even having talks with my teammates who didn't quite understand, like, man, why does it take that long to get your hair done? Or you have a completely different hairstyle today. What happened? Like, how'd your hair grow that long overnight? It's like, hey, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So just really understanding, what types of questions are okay to ask, and also building the relationship with your teammates and your players first before you know, start to ask all these questions about some things that might feel personal to them and might make them uncomfortable in front of everyone. So I think it's key for coaches and leaders to build that relationship and really know their athletes, or get to know their athletes individually, and see what they're comfortable with talking about out loud in front of everyone, and doing things in a more appropriate way to allow them to share when they're comfortable on their own time, and also being okay if they don't feel like sharing. So I think that's really important to remember as well. Now, this can go to anyone on here, Brenda, Rachel, or Wendy, just thinking about the coaches that are tuning in today. How can sports help girls value what their bodies can do rather than how they look? So what can coaches do specifically to help girls value that over what they're looking like?
I'll jump in until folks jump in, but it's really doing things on measurement, right? In each sport, you have certain things that you have to hit, or milestones or things like that. And really to keep it to that milestone so that athletes understand what they have to achieve and how they have to achieve it. That's what coaches do. I mean, we plan way ahead of time. Our schedules, which athletes don't see it, and also parents don't see it. We plan pretty long. So you have to understand that what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, or each time you go to practice, is what kind of small goals that you want to achieve. Those longer ones will come together, but I think if coaches keep reminding themselves it's one step at a time, and that just keep encouraging them to hit their milestones and to adjust them accordingly, is very, very important. I think people and girls and everybody wants to know what it is that they need to achieve, and so that kind of communication, I think, is very important.
Thank you for sharing that.
Along those lines, the measurement piece, right? I know there was a stat that was thrown out by two different strength coaches, that one that I've worked with and another that was working with the athletes that I coach, was pull-ups. I think it's like 10% of women can do pull-ups, right? So, or something, I don't remember the stat, but just something like that, where like you're working towards something, and just building on the strength. And we're in the water doing different things, but it's so nice to see the girls really go for it and encourage each other, and know that this is something that was just in general will help them. So to see them like pull together when they're getting that first one. So it goes back to like, how do you inspire them to just have overall just healthy bodies, right? And then reminding them of all the extraordinary things that they can do in their sport or just in life.
Yeah,
I,
that's
I'm
great.
I mean, I think Wendy said it perfectly. I think, when I'm looking at a season, or if I'm, getting ready to coach, I think the biggest part is like being able to celebrate those micro wins, because ideally we all have that big goal. But I think if you can accomplish, like set those smaller goals for the day, and like in celebrate the outcomes of what's happening, because like every single day that you get onto the field or onto the court or whatever sport that you're playing, I think if you can accomplish the one thing that you want to accomplish that day, like celebrate it. And I think that'll help build your confidence every single time that you step out on the court or in the field, whatever sport you're playing.
Great advice, Rachel. And I also think about when it comes to any type of competition, right? Especially for young girls, when competition is involved, we often see comparison rise, right? Where you're looking to the left and right, kind of measuring yourself up against others, whether it be your teammates or like your competition or others you're playing against. What are some ways that you've helped yourself, whether as you were competing as an athlete or even as a coach, help create an environment where we're not comparing ourselves to others, and we're focusing on, playing our game, doing the things that we need to do to be better, but not comparing to the left and right and getting caught up in that comparison complex. Let's start with you, Brenda.
You know, in coaching, right? Coaching team sports, it's something that later in my life, I feel like as an athlete, it was shared leadership? How do we focus on the common goal we all have? So even now when I'm coaching, it's like emphasizing the selflessness that is needed to then take the team to the next step. So, yes, you all are competing for spots, but the more you all can just, cheer each other on, inspire each other, um, it's for the benefit of everyone. So then those individual accolades within the team kind of don't matter. So you're not comparing yourself as much. And then it's also just a reminder of when we are doing test sets or doing things, it's like everyone has their personal best. So yes, your teammate can help you, be faster, but like did you do better? Did you better your PR? And if not, then like what do you need to do? Or like how do you go and gravitate towards a teammate that's going to help you be better by pushing yourself? So like knowing yourself and reflecting on that, but also just the team aspect. And I think it's easier now that you see so much of just love being accepted in team sports, or just like the passion. I see it being encouraged more, and I think that it's great because it allows us to move away from the, oh, what's she doing in lane 8 over there and can I beat her? It's like, no, 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 she's faster, I'm faster, we're all winning.
Mhm. That's good. That's great. It's like compete but don't compare, right? Focus on getting 1% better every day. Focus on, what unique skills you bring to the table and that you focus on and grow in rather than trying to measure up to folks that are around you. Because like we said at the beginning of this webinar, all body types are different, all skill sets are different and unique, and really owning yours is going to help you learn and grow the best and the fastest way. We do have a question from the audience that I want to ask. So someone submitted this question saying many of the girls on their high school team that he coaches or she coaches struggled with eating enough food before practice because they were sophomores, their parents weren't or were more hands off on their schedules. How do we encourage teens to fuel their bodies properly while managing their busy high school schedules? So in your experience as a coach or as an athlete, what are some tips to help fuel your bodies properly when you're on the go all the time?
I would say one thing that really helped me is that I always kind of carried like a second lunch or like some sort of snack, especially because I mean, when I was in high school, like we'd have 6 classes to attend, and then it was like that seventh period was like your practice, or you were going right after school to a 3 hour practice. So I always made sure to pack like just something a little extra, just to snack on either before or even like let's say even if it's throughout the day. Like I always made sure I always brought more food than what I thought I needed.
I think from like a coach's perspective is normalizing that you're gonna need more like food than maybe students that are not as active. I know there's always a thing like, oh my goodness, I need to eat again, or but it's like, no, it's okay. You need to, your body needs it. So I think having snacks, like I used to have like this bin in my office where it's like, come in here if you need something, if you're still hungry after lunch or before headed to practice. And I know in our sports performing period, they offer those protein shakes, right? It's like offering and normalizing just additional fuel that is needed every time that you're stressing your body to get better. So that was easier to help make girls just understand that they just need more calories.
Yeah, and I would add that sometimes you have to think of it like you think of competition. I know, like if you go to competition, you tend to take the food you need to take. You kind of plan, but you have to do that kind of every day, especially every day, because that's when you really, really need it. You, of course, for your competition, but it's kind of like making sure you have everything you need when you go to practice. And part of that is to make sure you're fueled, to have a snack, like Rachel says, to have, like Brenda says, to have a piece of fruit. That's part of the whole process of making sure that you're training properly. So it's kind of normalize it so that every day you know that when you leave to do what you have to do, school and then practice or whatever, that that fuel is part of the process.
Yes, I am picking up what y'all are putting down. Absolutely. I think it's so important to to have that mindset shift when we're talking about this with young athletes. You're using terms like fueling your body, and listening to your body, and remembering that you need those nutrients in order to sustain the energy that you need to go out there and compete. And just like we prepare to compete, you have to prepare, to fuel your body properly. My coach always told me no stage is too big for a prepared person. Right? If we're going to prepare to go out there and play our best, we got to also prepare with the proper fuel and sleep and these types of things as well. Knowing that we have busy schedules, we got to plan ahead. So that's such great advice. Thank y'all for sharing that. I do want to get into some tangible, things and actionable takeaways that coaches and parents or caregivers can implement immediately, maybe like tomorrow at their next practice or when they are with their teams. So let's start with Rachel. What's one way that parents can best support their daughters that you've seen or that you've experienced through the ups and downs of sports and self-image?
I would say the biggest thing that I've noticed is that like what happens after you do fail? Like are coaches and parents kind of, lecturing your kids or are they supporting them? And for me, when I went through the system, like I saw a lot of ups and downs. And I think the biggest part of why I felt confident in my sport was because even after failure, like my parents were always telling me the things that I did good at. So I think, having that support system, no matter what, whether you win or you lose, whether you strike out or you hit a grand slam, like there's always a positive in what you're doing in your sport. And I think as long as we can feed into those positives, like that's what's going to give that self-confidence in what you do.
Absolutely. I mean, as parents that are tuning in, just that emotional support is so powerful. It really matters. And, oftentimes parents or leaders want to fix something right then, right there, and we don't have to fix everything, right? We can't fix everything. I think listening and encouraging and just showing up can make the biggest difference for our youth. So being that support system and that safe space and not feeling like you need to fix and overanalyze every single play by play right after the competition. Wendy, you have something to add?
I do, because I think what Rachel's talking about is a communication. Besides the parents being the support, I always tell people it's three of you all together. You've got your coaches, you've got your parents, you've got the athlete, and everybody has to be working together. It's so critical. I've never seen it be successful when it's not, and there are ways to do that one. And so there's sometimes when the coach is best to handle a situation, and it really is sometimes, because parents, I get it, it's very hard for me to watch my son compete. I'm so nervous. It's like, so you have to understand that coaches and athletes deal with it in a different way. And so making sure that you're communicating, if you can't talk to the coach, say, maybe my athlete's like this, maybe you can mention something, but that three-way communication, and it's three-way because all you athletes out there, you have to be able to express yourself. It's really critical. And that's a really important thing to learn as you go forth. That's part of your confidence. But it's really the communication. But like Rachel said, it's really just about be support. It's be the support and the parents out there. And it's not analyzing, it's nothing that can be done on that day. They've got it. This is what the coaches and athletes are working on every time they go to practice. So they got that part. And I think for the parents' role, everybody needs a soft place to land, and that's the role of the parents.
I like that saying, everyone needs a soft place to land, and that's the role of the parents. At the end of the day, the sport is already tough. You're going to go through ups and downs. Life is tough. We're going to go through it. Home needs to be the safe space, not another tough space for us, right? So I think oftentimes parents think, oh, I got to teach them and toughen them up and this, and that. And it's like, whoa, we're going to get that already, So being that safe space, being that shoulder that they can, really lean on in those moments where they need it most. I think, man, when I think back to my sporting days, there's one thing that I wish my sports parent would really understand is like when I needed dad, please be dad and not coach, right? In those moments. I know there's a lot of people tuning in now that are coaching their own kids. That is a commitment in itself. It's not easy, very hard to do, but make sure you know when to separate that role. And at the end of the day, you are a parent or caregiver first. and the kids just want to hear you say, I love watching you play, or I love watching you compete. Um, so another question that I have, this one's for Brenda, and anyone else who would love to chime in. I think rituals and traditions and team building are very, very powerful for creating that connection. So what are some of those rituals and activities and team building exercises that you've seen work, especially for building girls' confidence?
I just finished coaching high school, and now I'm coaching college. But something that worked really well at Orange Lutheran High School was we all did devotions. But the great thing that happened with that is it gave the space, the girls, the team, a space to be themselves and to be vulnerable, and that just created um, this safe space for them to encourage each other. And there's often tears, but to me, it's like I'm not afraid of tears, right? Because it's just a way of expressing your emotions. And then you get in the water and you play a really hard sport, and then you're very aggressive. But it just really um, allowed them to be their authentic selves and to share that with the team. And I think the more you're connected in and out of the water, um, the more it'll just help you perform, but also just be great humans and be great examples and kind of lean on each other through these hard high school years, right? When your body image comes up or you're doubting yourself. Um, so for me, it was really eye-opening to see them really lean into that and just be able to share themselves. And it's a positive culture that they're creating and reinforcing. So I would just go back to like finding an activity where everyone could be their true selves, and you as a coach can monitor and make sure that everyone is safe in that space. I think does wonders for your program.
Great advice. If anyone else has any other rituals that they've done or team building activities, I know they're really powerful to create that connection. And I think also, letting the athletes kind of chime in on some of the things that they want to try or do creates a sense of agency and that leadership as well, and that commitment when they can kind of self-advocate and lead in some of those activities. Wendy, did you have something?
I did. So we did some great things when I was, a younger athlete and songs and things like that. But I wanted to mention again what Brenda, especially, and Rachel have been talking about the team aspect, even in an individual sport. So gymnastics is an individual sport and it's a judge sport. You're talking about trying to compare somebody. So what I really encourage is, for one, the athletes don't look at the other scores. I know it's hard, but you can't control the judges. So you have to focus on your score. But if you're not like right next up to compete, then you should be cheering on your teammate. It should be a thing, because the teammates also know, they see you in practice all day, so they know how you did a good routine or not, and they're the perfect people to be there when you either had a great success or really you had a mistake. The teammates, even if you're in an individual sport, can really be a great support system for you because they're your same age. They're going through the same thing. So learning to work together as a team, focus just on what you can do, but when you're not focused on that, make sure and support your teammates.
Yes, wonderful advice. Thank you so much for that. Now, we are getting quite a few questions. I can't get to them all, but I see a consistent theme here is fear and anxiety in young girls that's rising. So, what is some advice that you might have to share with how you've dealt with either pregame or competition jitters, fear and anxiety? Before competition or just in other areas of life? And how do you manage that? And how do you kind of center yourself to be able to show up and still perform and work through it? We're not saying that it won't exist and we can just get rid of fear and anxiety, but what are some ways that we can, manage through that? I want to start with Rachel. Knowing you got to be on the mound. The game doesn't start until you pitch the ball. So that's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of high stakes. And you're involved in pretty much every single play. So what are some ways that you control your, emotions and emotional regulation in those moments?
I would say for me, it's always sticking to my routine. I mean, you're always going to be in high stressful situations. Either you're going into like a gold medal game, and you're playing the Team Japan, who's always been ranked, really high. Like what is your pregame look like? Like, do you have a routine, or do you just, wake up and you just kind of feel that anxiety? Like, do you acknowledge it and stick to your routine, or do you just let it slide and then you just have that build up until the game starts? So I think for me, like finding that routine, and it's always, getting up, getting my coffee, and you know, having breakfast with a teammate. Like that has always been like my thing when I'm in season. Um, and then when I'm in game, I'm always focusing on my breath, whether I'm on the mound or if I'm, getting ready to hit, picking a focal point on the field, and I just, take a deep breath. And then before I'm ready to step onto the mound or into the box, I'm looking down, or I'm looking down the right field line, and then take a deep breath, and then I step in the box. So just keeping a routine and making sure that you stick to it at all times.
I love that. Having a routine definitely creates a sense of, calmness, a sense of um, control over those emotions in that moment. Breathing techniques are so huge. We talk about box breathing, really helping your athletes or your kids understand the power of breathing in those moments. And then having some coping mechanisms as well. I love how Rachel mentioned having breakfast with a teammate that makes her feel good. I would have playlists that I would listen to before games that would instantly shift my mood. So definitely having like a list of things that you can turn to and having that support system around you to just remind you in those moments when you might forget who you are, just to remind you, hey, you've got this, you've done this before. And, it's not just about the results at all, it's about the person that you're becoming in the process. And I'm proud of you. Whatever happens out there, I'm proud of you for showing up. So I think that's something that coaches and parents need to lean on absolutely to help in those high pressure moments. Now, I do want to ask before we wrap up here for all three of you, if you could speak directly to your 12-year-old self or a 12-year-old girl that was losing confidence in herself, what would you say?
So if I'd be
Okay.
talking to myself as a 12-year-old and I'm losing confidence, is that the question?
That's either to yourself or another 12-year-old girl, what would you say?
My daughter's 9, right? So
Okay.
not quite 12, but I would, just ask her about what she loves about the sport, what brings her joy,
Mm.
and maybe try and get to the root of like what's causing her to lose that confidence. But just remind her that mom loves you regardless, little brother loves you regardless. So I would say let's finish the season and we could reevaluate to see where we can make sure that you're having joy and fun in whatever activity you're doing.
Thank you for sharing that, Brenda. I think that's really powerful. I'm going to help your daughter and other daughters listening and parents listening to know how to really help when your daughter might be losing that confidence. How about you, Wendy?
Yeah, I think that's really important. Having joy is really critical. I mean, we do the sport because we love it. And sometimes it goes away and you get injured. There are lots of things that can kind of step in the way, but just the passion or the joy that you have it. The one thing I will say, the breathing techniques definitely work and having different rituals. But I will have to say to parents, and I think this is really important for stress for both practice and competition, is you have to reduce your stress, meaning you have to be on time. You have to get into a habit because this is where you have to look at that. If you get to a practice or especially you get to a competition, you want to be able to have time to prepare, to breathe, to do everything. So releasing the outside stress around your sport will help you release the anxiety that you have. And I think you just have to sometimes take a step back and look at what your goals are and what you can take away that's really kind of stressing you out. It may not be the sport that's really stressing you out. And coaches, you know this, and parents, you know this too, and athletes know this. But sometimes you have to just take a look. But the one thing I will say where parents can really make the most impact is to make sure that your daughter has everything she needs for competition and for practice, and things are set up so that there's less stress in her life.
Yes, yes, 100%. And I do want to name something, like every time we mention parents, we do understand that not every, child has the traditional parent or a safe, supportive home or parent figure. So we also are considering caregivers or mentors and supportive figures around them. And if, there's folks tuning in that know some of their athletes don't have that supportive home or parents. We really encourage you to be that support for the athlete, really lean into community support, really access resources out there. I know Women's Sports Foundation has a ton of resources, Positive Coaching Alliance has a ton of resources, how to really step in the gaps when these things do happen. So I just wanted to name that briefly because we have mentioned parents often. Now, Rachel, what would you say to a 12-year-old girl that might be losing confidence in herself?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna have to bounce off of what Brenda said, is just like asking what what is fun about the sport. I mean, I remember when I was experiencing my burnout, like I finished out the season and then I took a step back and I took that whole season off, and it made me realize why I missed it so much. And to me, sport is where you find your lifelong friends, and that's to me is what made the sport fun. And I think to this day, like I still keep in contact from my travel ball teammates to my high school teammates, even to my college teammates. Like there are going to be lifelong friends that are always going to support you in what you do. And I think, ideally that's what I would say, is that, those are your lifelong friends, and that's why you enjoy what you do.
Wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you to all three of you, Wendy, Brenda, Rachel, um, for your honesty and wisdom today. You've reminded all of us, me especially, that, when we show up as coaches or parents and caregivers and mentors, we can either build or break confidence, and that, intentional choices matter. At the end of the day, sports are supposed to be fun. So let's keep it fun for our young girls who are participating and get more girls participating as well. So on behalf of Positive Coaching Alliance, I've appreciated my time that I've gotten to spend with each of you today. And I thank you to Dove as well as WSF for having PCA a part of this important conversation. So I'll pass it back to you, Hannah, for some closing remarks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Marty, Brenda, Wendy, Rachel, Karen. You guys were all so amazing and so inspirational. I just want to thank you guys for being a part of this conversation. And thanks to all the viewers who tuned in to listen to this really awesome discussion. As Marty said, we have so many resources as the Women's Sports Foundation. So definitely check out the womensportsfoundation.org to learn more. Also, positivecoach.org to get some more resources that Marty mentioned. And then definitely check out the Body Confidence Sport, their program that Marty discussed. All of our QR codes are up here, and I'll put on a larger QR code here at the end. But definitely please check it out. This session is being recorded, so it will be available to view later. So if you've enjoyed it, I really encourage you to pass it along to someone else who might benefit from the discussion. And just thank you again to Dove, to Positive Coaching Alliance, to all of our amazing partners and speakers here today, and hope everyone has a wonderful night. Thanks again.